Now it's time for another Board Game Brawl preview with Nick Meanahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com. Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Edge, Clans of Icosara from 404 Games. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page, which is running right now. There will be a link up in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Those links will take you to the page. You can find out more information than I could possibly tell you here. Find out more info about the pledge levels and what it has to offer, stretch goals, and things like that. And hopefully you will consider backing the project. Now, Edge is a game that is primarily for two players, where you have competing clans going against each other. These different factions, if you will, all have their different powerful warriors. And while some of the warriors in each clan are the same, they have special ones that are only for each other, and therefore your battle strategy is going to be different. But what you're trying to do in either case is take out your opponent's formation. You'll have like your army unit that you have laid out on the board, and you have to go through them one by one and try to wipe them out, earning points along the way. It's of course a little more complicated than that, so let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played with a prototype version of the game. So keep that in mind. What you see in this version here that I have might be not completely, but it might be at least a little bit different than what you see in the final version. But then we're going to come back and we'll discuss it further. Edge, Clans of Icosara is a competitive game primarily for two players. Each player takes control of a competing faction, and to win, you'll need to wipe out your opponent's formation. A normal game consists of 2 rounds, with each player having a turn at being the attacker and defender. There are 2 clans in the base game, the Savages and the Crusaders. Each one is represented by a deck of 16 cards, each with a different border, with each card representing a pawn in your army and its own special abilities. Each faction has 2 special pawns that are unique to them. The Savages have the Shaman and the Hidden Spearman, and the Crusaders have the Paladin and the High Priestess. These give each faction a different flavor. The Savages are a bit difficult to master but have longer term payoffs, while the Crusaders are straightforward and strong. Each pawn has a special ability and has icons to indicate when they can be used. Sometimes it's just whenever battle breaks out, and sometimes it's only if you're the attacker or defender in particular. Some abilities require exhausting the pawn by turning it sideways, while others are just once per round abilities. Each player takes a set of cards and chooses 12 pawns to play with, removing the other 4 from the game entirely. Then, from those selected 12, select 8 of them for your starting formation and simply place 4 off to the side. They can be used in the second round. A formation will always look like this, with 3 in the front, 2 in the middle, and 3 in the back. When both players have set their formation, you will flip them all face up simultaneously. Each player also gets a set of dice, a d4, a d6, a d8, a d10, a d12, and a d20. You'll also need a coin or some other way to make a random 50-50 determination. The dice are a limited resource that you can only use once per battle round, except for the d4, which can be used as many times as you want. The round starts with whichever player is designated as the attacker. The player will select a pawn to attack with. Since pawns have a range of 1 unless otherwise noted, this means you'll usually be attacking someone in your opponent's front row with someone from your front row. You'll choose a die to attack with, and then the defender will choose one of theirs, and you'll roll them simultaneously. The higher number will win the fight. If it's a tie, it's broken by whichever player used a lower value die, which is always stronger. Each player gets 1 free reroll once per round, and another 3 master rerolls per round that can be used even if you already used your free one. Whichever pawn is defeated is removed from the game, and that player must adjust their formation by moving a pawn from behind it forward to take its place. Pawns must always move into adjacent spots only and can't skip rows. The victor gets 1 victory point, and their pawn is turned to the side, exhausted and unusable for now. Then, the turn shifts to the next player. In some cases, every eligible fighter you have might be exhausted or otherwise unable to fight. If this happens, you can either pass or concede one of your fighters and a victory point to the other player in order to move a new fighter up into attack range. Now, if both players pass, though, then they both just reset their exhausted pawns and continue normally with the next player. The The round continues until one player's entire formation is wiped out. Players will keep track of their victory points, then reset and do it all over again, but this time with the previous first attacker now being the defender and vice versa. Whoever ends up with the most points after this second round is the winner. While the idea of a competitive two-player head-to-head game where army units are attacking each other is not a new one, Edge does a few interesting things that set it apart from its other brethren in this genre. So first off, you have the concept of each army having similar units, but also having ones that are completely unique to it, and therefore changing your playstyle in each case. It's not just purely, okay, here's this, and it's exactly the same as this one, and we just go at it and see who potentially outthinks the other person, although there is that. It's also, what can I do to exploit the benefits of my particular clan and faction? The other aspect of it is, of course, the spatial element to the game, where you are actually there's lots of decisions in the game, and one of the very first things you have to do is put out your units. First off, choose the units that you're going to use. So that's going to be a variable game. Even if you have some of the same units as your opponent, you might be using them, your opponent might not be in a particular game. So it's going to be very different which armies are going against each other. You make that decision. Then, from the ones you choose to use in that round of play, you have to choose which ones you're going to put out on the table in formation and where they go. That's going to be the most benefit. Maybe you don't want to use your big bomb, so to speak, right at the front. You want to use it in the rounds, but you don't want to have it right in the front lines in the firing line. That can also vary depending on whether or not you're going to start off as the attacker or the defender. So it's very important how you set your formation and what you do with it and how you best use their special abilities depending on where they are. So these are all very important decisions you need to make. And then on top of that, you have to make some very critical decisions with your dice. Your dice are a finite resource. You can, use one of your really strong and powerful ones, but then you're not going to have it for the rest of the round. So when do you use it selectively? Not to mention the fact that if your character or the pawn has bonuses, maybe you want to go for a lower die because that can break ties. The lower value, so to speak, weaker die that you use is going to break ties in your favor. But the attacker has to choose their die first. So there's a lot of important things that you have to decide as you go along. It's sort of a risk mitigation thing. And it's all just trying desperately to take out your opponent's troops before they can take yours out. The more you can take out their troops, the better off it's going to be for you because they won't get to use their abilities either. But they can quickly turn things around when one of their more powerful units comes back up. So there's a lot of interesting things going on in the game. I think that if you are someone who likes two-player games in particular, of course, I think you might get a lot of play out of it. If you like formation, army unit type card games, games with lots of variable player or character abilities, then definitely you want to check out Edge, the Clans of Icosara. It is on Kickstarter right now, seeking funding. Go to the Kickstarter project page. Don't take my word for it. Find out more information and hopefully consider backing the project. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting our sponsors. Take care.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.